Hey guys, welcome back to the internet. You ever have those days where you're just really tired for no reason, and no matter how much you sleep, you're just still tired? Well, that's how I feel today. So I mentioned yesterday that I'll probably be telling some scary stories, and it seems like a lot of people in the comments are excited for it. I think that what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my regular stories on weekdays, Monday through Friday, and then do scary stories on the weekends. And yeah, we'll just see how it goes. But for now, let's start with Entitled Parents. Entitled Mom leaves her kids 6 train carriages away while she tries to steal our seats. So myself and my girlfriend were coming back from Paris after my brother's wedding. We took the Eurostar both ways, but on the way there we went standard class. My girlfriend and I were paying for the return, and thought that we'd go for it by upgrading to Standard Premier, which was slightly more expensive than normal Standard, but we don't go to Paris very often. The main differences between Standard and Standard Premier are that with Standard it's pretty cramped, and with Standard Premier you get extra legroom. And with Standard Regular, you have to go and buy food on board, but with Standard Premier, you get food and drinks at your seat. The different options are divided into different carriages. Standard is carriages 1 through 5, and Premier is 7 through 12, and then 14 through 18 are also standard. So my girlfriend and I get to the train. Our seats are in the carriage towards the middle, and we're in one of the rows nearest the door. We get settled in our seats, ready to leave, when Entitled Mom approaches. All paraphrasing. Entitled Mom seemed nice at first, but it didn't last. She says, "Excuse me." I say, "Yes." She says, "I'm terribly sorry to ask you this. I hope you don't mind." "Yes." She says, "My daughter and I are traveling, and we got put a bit far back. She has a bad leg. We need to be closer to the doors, and we can't be getting up to get food and drink." My girlfriend says, "Oh, poor her. I broke my leg a couple years back, and that was awful. Had to have crutches and everything. How old is she?" Says, "She's 8. She's really in a bad way, but she's such a trooper. It would just be so much easier if we were a bit further forward." I say, "Where are you sat?" She says, "Just a little further back." She gestures vaguely behind us, and I get suspicious at this point. I say, "Yeah, but where specifically? What carriage number?" She says, I think it was 3. Now, we were in coach 10. This is a significant distance. Additionally, coach 3 is standard seating only. I say, "Isn't 3 standard class?" She says, "Well, yes, but my daughter needs these seats." So my girlfriend, catching on to the Entitled Mom's plan, says, "Look, we're not unsympathetic, but we sort of paid extra for these seats." I say, "Also, where is your kid?" She says, "I'm going back for her once I've sorted the seats. So can I tell her it's sorted?" I say, "We haven't agreed to anything. Isn't coach 3 closer to the front than 10? If it's about proximity, wouldn't you be better off in coach 2? She says, "No, she needs the legroom too, and she can't keep getting up to help. You look like you can afford it." I say, "Not really. We're only splashing out this once, as it's my brother's wedding." So she huffs and says, "Look, are you going to give me the seats or not?" So my girlfriend, in this overly sweet voice she does that usually indicates she's on her last nerve with someone, "It sounds like you're actually further up than we are. If legroom is an issue, then I'm sure we can speak to someone. I'm pretty sure your coach has priority boarding. I'll help you find someone, sort something out. It's really no trouble." My girlfriend gets up and leads the Entitled Mom back to her coach, with the Entitled Mom grumbling the whole time. My girlfriend comes back about 5 minutes later and tells me that the daughter, who was not at all entitled, is also totally fine and in no way has a bad leg. Apparently the daughter straight up ran to the Entitled Mom and my girlfriend when they came in the carriage. And my girlfriend said the kid was way too young to be left on her own, and they were actually pretty close to the front of the train. But nothing else happened after that. No stopping, calling police, assault of any kind. Entitled Mom just went back to her seat. But my girlfriend and I thought we saw her walk through the carriage before ours, a little while later to speak to someone in there, so maybe she was trying again with someone else? Well, I mean, you said that you were on coach number 10, and they were on number 3, so they probably tried every single one between them. I mean, people find clever ways to beg. Sometimes they just have no shame. Hey, they took our money. So when I was in 7th grade, my buddy and I got dropped off at the movie theater. We got there pretty early before the movie started, and decided to kill some time at the arcade next door to the theater. We were meeting some other friends there to see the movie, so my buddy decided to call our friends to let them know we were next door to the theater. As my buddy pulls his cell phone out of his pocket, he drops $10 on the floor. Before he could start to bend over to pick it up, some older kids grabbed it, knowing that it was my buddy's, and wouldn't give it back. Not wanting any confrontation, my buddy lets it slide and accepts that these kids stole his money. About 10 minutes later, these kids unplugged the game we were playing and knocked our sodas on the ground. We had enough. We then walked outside to see if our friends we were meeting up with had arrived yet, and that's when we saw the older kids. They were parking their bikes in front of McDonald's. Without hesitation, my buddy and I stole their bikes and donated them to Salvation Army across the street. The look of anger when they saw their bikes were stolen was more than worth the $10 my buddy lost. Child politics. Where really anything goes, but it's every man for himself. Today I effed up by telling a girl on a first date that I work with deaf children and know sign language. So first of all, I'll start off with a little context. I don't usually do formal first dates, especially when it's with someone I barely know. However, I've just come back to university for my final year of studying, and I met up with an old flatmate from last year. She had already moved into her new flat, and met all of her new flatmates, one of which happened to be a very attractive girl who we will call Stacy. Now, my old flatmate was always trying to set me up on dates last year at the university, but I always had an excuse. Now with it being a new year, I thought I'll have a fresh start and really knuckle down and stop going out all the time. I said exactly the same thing after my first year, and focus up on uni work and look for a serious relationship instead of having flings. So I get shown a few pictures of Stacy, and my old flatmate is telling me how nice she seems and how great she is, and honestly I just thought, why not? I may as well. What harm could going on a date possibly bring about? So she gives me Stacy's number and we start to text and chat for a couple weeks, and we seem to be getting along really well. So much so that I suggest we should go out for some food one evening to meet in person, and to get to know one another a little better. Now, bearing in mind I never ever do this. I usually just speak to girls on nights out when I'm filled to the brim with liquid confidence, and I'm usually so drunk that my confidence is through the roof. However, I feel myself really starting to like this girl. I've never really been one for texting, but our conversations seem to flow naturally. So I met Stacy at this very busy restaurant last week. I'm full of nerves, but I'm ready for the date. We get sat down and we begin chatting away, and things seem to be going really well. I'm still nervous, but after a few pints, the nerves start to settle, and I get a bit carried away telling my stories, and my somewhat crude jokes. At the best of times, I'm a very loud person. However, after a few beers, I turn into a human foghorn, and unbeknownst to me, I'm speaking at a level high enough for the whole room to hear. I know this because all my friends love to remind me how loud I am when we're on a night out. Now, here comes the F-up. So, being full of my favorite ale, and with the nerves starting to settle, I'm growing louder and louder by the minute. So much so that Stacy, very politely I must say, lets me know that I need to turn the volume down just a tad, especially when telling my alcohol-fueled jokes. Now, I'm not an angry person by any means, but I can't begin to count the amount of times I've been told to quiet down when drunk. And for some reason, I decided this night was the night where I'd had enough. So instead of apologizing like any normal person would, drunk me decided it would be a good idea to try and turn it back on Stacy. I don't know what came over me, but the only excuse I could muster was, well, I do apologize, but, you see, I volunteer working with deaf children, so I'm used to having to speak really loudly. I've actually just come from there before our date. Now, if you know me, you would realize how ridiculous this sounds. Once I had told my friends and my old flatmate about what I had said, they were falling to the floor with laughter. So far, it doesn't seem that bad, until Stacy says something along the lines of, wow, I'm really sorry, that is great, you must know sign language then. So drunk me, thinking I'd gotten one up on her, proceeded to nod and claim that I do in fact know sign language. I think I even threw up a few fake hand signs, which probably looked more like gang signs to cover my tracks. However, what I didn't expect was for Stacy to have a younger deaf brother, who would apparently love to meet me, as she's never dated a guy before who could do sign language. Honestly, my heart sank. She was sat across the table from me, signing something to me, and who knows what she was saying. I just smiled and nodded, and to this day I still don't know what she was saying, but my unenthusiastic smile and nod seemed to work. I quickly moved the conversation along and got swiftly off the subject. So now Stacy thinks I know sign language, and what's even better is that she can't wait for me to meet her younger brother, who would be so excited to be able to sign with the new guy she's dating. I've tried YouTube videos, but all I've managed to pick up on is being able to say vowels and ask someone's name. I don't have the guts to tell her, and I really don't know what to do. I'm seeing her again next week, and I don't know how to tell her the truth. She seems like the sort of person who would just laugh it off, but she seems so happy when I told her, and she's even suggesting we FaceTime her brother when we're next together, so I can have a conversation with him. I just feel like a jerk now, and I don't want to let her down or upset her younger brother, but I don't think asking him his name over and over again is gonna cut it. Well, it seems like you've pulled yourself a Todd Margaret here. This is why you don't make up things to brag about. But man, I feel like most of the tifu posts are just from people being too drunk. Alright, now we got one more big story. When G members think they're talking to corporate, but end up talking to me. So I've had a lot of guests that have been a freaking pain, especially lately, but today really took the cake. So I'm a PBX operator at my property, and it's a higher tier brand within the family that we have. I have to answer the phone and say things such as, my pleasure, is there anything else I may assist you with, etc., which would give you a little bit of insight to where I work. So here's how it'll go. So I'm in the back office, I'm working the graveyard shift. If you work grave or at a slower property, you know you have to basically handle everything regarding the desk at these hours. This is relevant later. So I get a call at 12:55 a.m. This guest is a G member, and we all know how lovely they are. I say, good evening sir, this is so-and-so at your service. The guy says, this is freaking ridiculous. We have 4 people in this room. Housekeeping came yesterday and today, and they know we have 4 people in the room, but they only left 3 towels? I say, I do apologize. It is brand standard to only have 3 sets of towels in all of our rooms. I can definitely send an extra. No, we have 4 people. Housekeeping should know to bring 4 freaking towels. and then they clicked on me. So I go into my other system and put in a request for 6 towels for their guest. That way they're sure to have extra towels and I don't have to deal with them again. They call back a little later at 1:02 a.m. Cue my spiel. He says, "Yeah, I spoke to you earlier today about the towels and they're not in my room. It's been 20 minutes. I say, "I actually see that you called 7 minutes prior and I put the request for my towels in the system. I do apologize. We are close to sold out this evening and we have over 500 rooms at this resort. So my housemen have a lot of requests to fulfill. It might take a minute to get to your room as they are running all throughout the resort." They cut me off yet again, and then passed me over to the lady, which assuming was his wife. At this point, I start being sarcastically nice and a little snarky because they're just yelling and hardly letting me get a word in. She tells me, and I quote, "You listen here, you're a freaking nobody." I say, "Thank you." She says, "You just work at this hotel. I'm a G member, and trust me, you do not want me to freaking come down there." I say, "Well, you're more than welcome to come to the desk if you'd like." She says, "I don't freaking want to." I say, "Okay, so what would you like me to do?" She says, "I want my freaking towels." I say, "I already explained the situation, ma'am. Would you like to speak to my manager instead?" And I pass them over. My manager goes to deliver the towels, since my houseman has 10 plus other requests that he needs to get to before he can get to theirs. After 30 minutes, I get over it and go about the reports I needed to do overnight, when I hear the noise of the chat, which I have to answer. I open it up, and lo and behold, it's the guy complaining about me, assuming they'd be talking to someone from corporate. In this chat, they call me out by name, and say that I told them they could only have 2 people in their room, and all these other lies. Little did they know they'd be getting a reply from me. They threatened to go to a competitor, which, by all means, let them deal with you. I just find it comical that they think we're going to get a reply from corporate themselves. All they do is call our property and tell us to reach out to said guests. When my morning manager comes in, I'll explain the situation and tell them not to comp anything, along with the extensive notes I left in the reservation. Because not only could I not get a sentence out while trying to talk to this guest, they just weren't nice. Man, I seriously don't know how people keep their cool when dealing with customers like this. Like, I mean, at a certain point, you really just have to say, like, alright, well, why don't you just leave and go somewhere else? Alright, well, I've had enough of reading stories. I've already, like, cut 3 or 4 stories while trying to record this, so this has been going on a long time. So let's just answer the question, what is the weirdest thing you ever witnessed? So I answered the wrong phone, in the wrong house, and got the right person. Let me explain. So I used to do computer repair work in high school. This was back in the days of the modem, which was a device that connected to your phone line. My boss complained that his modem was dead, and as was a standard procedure of the time, I connected a phone to the modem to check for a dial tone. Almost immediately, the phone rang. This is odd, since this phone line isn't published, and never has a phone connected to it, so I figured it was going to be a wrong number, and answered it. As soon as I picked up and said, "Hello?" I got, "Oh, hey man, it's Rob, you want to come to the mall to see a movie with me tonight?" I asked, "How did you get this number?" And he explained that he didn't know I was at work, and dialed, he thought, my home phone number. He must have misdialed my home phone number, and accidentally keyed in the number for a phone that's never connected, at my job, where I happened to be testing the line at that very second. He dialed the wrong number, got the wrong phone, and got the right person. The chances of that must be astronomical. Man, this needs to go into my, incredible coincidence video. So one time I was driving through Nevada, probably about 30 minutes before Vegas. My friends and I were headed to Utah from California, and needed a bathroom break, so we stopped at some gas station for a minute. While we were in the bathroom, 4 FedEx delivery employees in their full uniforms came walking in, and all 4 piled into one bathroom stall, without a word being spoken. Also, not a sound in the stall. My friend and I looked at each other and speed walked out, barely able to contain our laughter. Once we were outside, there was no FedEx vehicle in sight. I really have no idea what the explanation for that was. I mean, this to me sounds exactly like that thing from Harry Potter where they do that toilet travel, you know? Like maybe they were just using some kind of port key. I was driving down the freeway and traffic came to a sudden stop. Up ahead were half a dozen police cruisers. We slowly filed past in the inside emergency lane, and a number of officers were behind their doors, weapons drawn. As I get closer, I see one officer running for his life, looking really scared. What had a dozen trained cops so on edge? A freaking goat. The cops were trying to wrangle a goat that had escaped from the adjacent field. Somehow I wish all traffic jams ended that way. Man, every traffic jam I see ended is just, you get past a car driving slow, and then, oh, now there's no more traffic. There was literally no reason for people to be driving slow, but that's just how it goes sometimes. So this is pretty tame and innocent, but still a 10 out of 10 on my weird scale. So at a property out in the country, I was speaking with an elderly homeowner when I noticed a ladder laying horizontally, connecting a second-floor bedroom window with a tree outside. I asked about it, and her eyes went wide. She said to me, "I will tell you, if you promise to tell no one." Okay, sure. "Please, you must tell no one, but that is for the raccoon." You have a raccoon? I raised him from a baby. Once he grew up, he became mean towards me and I can no longer hold him. The latter is how he gets in and out of the house. Every evening we have tea and toast together. Then he goes out for the night and returns in the morning. Oh, well, that doesn't sound too bad. Then she brought me in the house and took out a box from under the sink. It was full of things like earrings, necklaces, rings, coins, and watches. Anything at all shiny. He brings me things. If the neighbors find out, they will take him. Please tell no one. Yeah, sure. That's a pretty odd relationship you have with your wild pet there. I mean, my cat spends hours every night going out, but she never brings me anything other than just like small animals. I saw a guy walking a lit Christmas tree on wheels down the sidewalk at 9 p.m. at night. Had it on a leash and everything. Well, you gotta give it exercise so that it can be all big and bright by the time Christmas rolls around. You know when some people turn the volume of their car radio at maximum with some rap? I saw one with classical music at maximum volume, enjoying it like a freaking metal song. Like headbanging and everything. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've done this before too. 2 girls carrying a canoe on the streets. Like overhead style. They were in full sweater clothes at 30 Celsius outside, and there was nowhere to canoe in for miles and miles. And there's no outdoor shops near that place either. We went to a store, and when we came back, the girls were on the side of the road, in the canoe, like they were in the water and flailing their arms around. It was 8 p.m. in the middle of the summer. Never understood that one. You know, this kind of sounds like people who just like to do weird things out in public just to look weird and try and get a reaction from people. I mean, I've done stuff like that too. So back when I was like 15, I worked for my dad in this office. It was in a pretty busy neighborhood, and there was this big willow tree. You know, it had like those vine branches that were all hanging down. And of course they would like fall off sometimes. So I went and I picked one up, and I just had this branch, and it was surprisingly sturdy, and it weighed almost nothing. And it was about 12 feet long. So I just had this branch that I could just hold right out in front of me, and it would stand up 12 feet. And I would just like walk down the street carrying it out in front of me. It's like, it's pretty much touching the power lines, it's so tall. And I'm just trying to keep a straight face as I'm like going across a crosswalk. There's like 40 cars waiting, and just watching me walk past with this stick that's, you know, like 15 feet up in the air. At one point this car drove by and a bunch of teenagers was just like yelling like, yeah, out the window. Good times. Well, that about does it for my video. Faye's been bugging me quite a bit down here. You gonna say hello? What? Okay. Well, thanks for watching.